On to build 3. So in build 3, we're going to add the footer content, and we're going to begin our process of fine-tuning the sizing and positioning of the elements which make up our layout. So let's just scroll down to the bottom here, and let's take a look at our footer. And here it is. All right, so inside the footer, I've added what is an image, and then we're going to link to free pick with the image. So this here is one image. This is a second image of some other artwork that I'll incorporate into the exercise at a later time. And then we have a p tag. And inside this p tag, we have an unordered list. Okay. And I'm thinking, now that I'm looking at it, I'll probably come back and remove this p tag. I don't believe I need it. So, because I'm using the unordered list. Okay. I'll have to double check that. But anyway, we have our unordered list, and then inside the unordered list, I have the what's going to show up in the as far as the text inside the footer. We have exercise 5, illustrated song lyrics, Doinker by Rocket, my name. I'm just going to include Matt 120 plus Art 344, Spring 2020. And then I have a link also, just to go by their rules. That is the banner vector created by FreePick, and then their web address, and then there's an href which will send you to their web address, and the same is true with this list item. This is for the other graphic which I'll use later on. Okay, now let's go over to our CSS. So that's the content we've added. Now if we go over to our CSS, and we'll see that I've modified the header in build 3, and I've commented what I've changed. So I've moved the header down and to the left, and then I added z-index to move the header forward because it's going to overlap, and I rotated the header just a little bit because I thought the rotation looked nice. So it's just 5 degrees anti-clockwise. Then on H1 from build 2, we've increased the size. I've commented out the WebKit text fill color, and I just have my color showing up this way. I just think it looked better, the end result. And then I didn't really change anything with the H2. So let's take a look, and there's what has changed with our header from the previous build. Now let's go back and let's go and find what I worked on next. Okay, so I modified the rocket also. So I increased the rocket size in Illustrator, then adjusted and exported as a PNG 24 with an alpha channel. So in the build 2, the rocket was smaller, and I believe I used the code, and I made the rocket larger, and that made it a little blurry. If you go back and look at that one, you might be able to see that the rocket was a little on the blurry side. So again, I increased the actual vector art scale in Illustrator. Then I took it into Photoshop, and I did the same thing. I went through the same process as I showed you in the exercise 5 build 1 Illustrator Photoshop PNG tips. Only this time I went with a PNG 24 because I just wanted the rocket to look that much better. Okay, and it still wasn't too bad of a file size. All right, so adjustments to the rocket affected the section element, and I had to make adjustments to the section. Okay, so we'll take a look at that next. So rocket, what I changed here is I moved a touch to the right, so I changed the negative left a little bit. And then, let's see, I rotated clockwise just a little bit. And then in the section, This, what I had to do was the top. I moved this section actually with a negative number. This moved down, it moved up. But I think it was negative 100 moves it up. I just didn't move it up as much as I had previously. So in fact, it came down a little bit. Okay, and I'm not sure if I adjusted anything in the P tag here. Oh, I fixed a spelling error. I think I had left the I off or something. And what did I do? This also affected Planet 3. It made Planet 3 go behind, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. Let's just look at what we have done with the rocket and the movement of the text. All right, so I'm going to zoom out so it's a little easier to see. All right, so I ended up just moving the rocket a little bit, rotating the rocket a little bit, made the rocket larger, and that made the artwork crisper instead of scaling the rocket up in the code itself. I went back and scaled the artwork, which just made a nicer result. And then I moved the text so it came down a little bit more. All right, let's go back to 0 here, and we'll scroll down. And our footer, I fixed a spelling error. I had left an I out. I've also changed the position to relative. It was absolute a while back. I increased the height, and then I targeted the footer image. Each of the images in the footer, those links to free picks or free pick, position is relative. We set the width, the height to the same. I'm using some margin, had to use negative margin because I wanted the image to move up like I have in this sketch. I wanted the images to move up above the top of the footer a little bit. So that's why we've done that. Border is 6 pixels solid and sort of an opaque white. The border radius is 100%, so that makes a circle because the width and the height match. Our border radius of 100 gives us a perfect circle. And I set the overflow to hidden so we wouldn't see any of the image outside of the width and height that we have set. And then we have our footer UL, which reminds me I probably could go back and remove this P tag. I don't believe I need the opening and closing P tag because I'm targeting the unordered list. I think I was going to use P tags, and I thought an unordered list made more sense for my links over on this side, over here. Okay, so position is absolute. We're using top and left to position the footer unordered list. It just made it a lot easier to move the text over to the right a little bit. Margin and padding are zeroed out, and we got rid of the bullets with list style type none. I'm setting the LI, we're setting our font family, a size, margin, and color. And then we're targeting the anchor inside of our list item. And I'm just changing the color to match the text. And I'm leaving the text decoration so we know that they're links. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at our footer, which reminds me we have to come back and then we'll look at how we modified the planets. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. And we should see our footer. This image goes to free pick, as does this one. And then you see our text and our links. And then one of the modifications we've done is we've taken Planet 3 and we've added z-index to bring it forward because it went behind the footer previously. So let's go back to 0, and we'll go back and let's take a look at what we've done to our planets. So in Planet 1, I have increased the width and the height because I think it looks better to have a bigger, to adjust the scale. It had a little more contrast by making the scale larger in the upper left-hand corner. And then I rotated, I think I had already done this previously to see the light area. I may have changed this because I wanted to see the highlight differently. And let's see, planet 2, we moved it down from the top some. We moved it more to the right so we don't see as much of it. And I increased the width and the height. And we're finally getting rid of all those borders. And I think this stayed the same as far as the bottom shadow for transform. And then planet 3, we increased the size. And this is the Z index that was added. And I believe we had already done the rotation on the bottom for this, for the bottom shadow. So if we go back to our build, we'll see that our planet is larger, which looks nice. And then this planet is larger, which looks nice. And I believe we made this one a little bit larger. So to see this in context, we'll zoom out, which will kind of mess up the type, but that's all right. So we can kind of see a bit more in context our layout. So changing this scale and this scale and position and this scale a little bit. Then what we had done with the type, we're making our type larger, and we added just a little bit of rotation to the type, which made the layout a bit more interesting. And then we made our rocket larger, and we adjusted the rotation on our rocket a little bit also. All right, so we have finished our build 3, and I believe we have just some final tweaks to do just to fine-tune our layout. And we'll do that next.